What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Knife Box channel. So today we got a very cool knife to talk about, the QSP Penguin. It's a knife I've actually become quite fond of. I wasn't quite expecting it to be quite this good. Spoiler alert, I really like it. So I thought I'd bring it out and do a little bit of a walk around and my experience with the QSP Penguin. So starting off, the box here is pretty cool. Nothing shy about advertising. It's made in China. This is an overseas produced knife. QSP is an interesting company. I've been keeping an eye out for quite a while. A few years back, they released a model called the Piglet. Here it is right here. And it was in this crazy Vinland Damas steel with Raffir Noble, and it just looked really wild for a budget knife company. I thought that was kind of bold for somebody kind of relatively fairly new in the game, and of course surrounded with other really good budget knife companies, some pretty high-end, or I'm sorry, not high-end, but some pretty well-established brands that are already out, like Civivi and so on and so forth. So anyways, let's take this guy out here, and the packaging's pretty cool on the inside as well. It'll come in this little baggie, and then inside its own little plastic wrap, you'll get the little card here, which will give you all the specs. Now, back when this knife came out, the handle options were linen micarta, denim micarta, carbon fiber, and brass. Since then, I've seen them come out in various other forms, titanium. I even seen some with some frag scales that look pretty cool. So very cool knife, been out for a while, tons of videos out on this guy, but it's noteworthy, guys. I know lots of people rave about it, and so do I. So let's get a look at it. Let's start off with the blade right here. So up front we have a Wharncliffe profile blade with dual thumb studs. We got a nice sharpening choil with a very crisp edge, and just a nice subtle drop with a nice flat spine. As far as the thickness of the blade here, let's check blade stock thickness. We are at 12 thousandths, which is nice and thin, but not too thin. It's going to be a nice durable blade if you decide to do something stupid with it.
Bladesmiths, this is the strength test, the wooden ramrod chop. To test the strength and durability of your edge, as well as the overall construction of your knives, I'll be chopping into this ramrod 10 times. Bob, you're up first. You ready?
No, but let's do it.
All right. Well, Bob, quite obviously, your blade broke.
Oops.
Although the edge will kind of taper down fairly thin, which I really like, because when you bring out a knife, you know, I usually kind of go more for a drop point profile. But then when you use a nice tapering effect like this, you kind of almost still have a nice acute point you can use. And it's not going to be that far off from using a drop point. You're just going to use it at a little bit different angle, which is fine by me. So, you know, nothing losing out without having a tip on this one. This one's been very usable and very user-friendly. On the other side here, we have the nomenclature of the blade steel. We got D2 steel. Again, I want to highlight how much nice machining there is on this knife. Like, the lines are nice and crisp all the way to the plunge grind right here. I'm just kind of impressed overall with the blade. And it's not really something I expected on a knife of this price range. Sub $50. I was expecting something a little bit more like a Rat Model 2, which is, you know, a very nice knife. I own tons of them, but this is just a whole lot nicer. It's more finished. The chamfering on the blade is just really nicely done. All the crowning on the corners, which extends all the way to the jimping. And then you even have these dual thumb studs, which actually protrude further than the scales, right? That's a big plus, something that some manufacturers don't pay attention to. Moving on the back spine, you got this nice, fairly stout little stop pin here, and then the back barrel spacers here are stainless steel, but you can see they even machined them out to make them look polished and kind of give them a little bit of depth to them, which I really like. The liners are stainless steel as well, and we flip the knife around. You can see it's actually got a fairly early lockup for a budget knife. I know a lot of CRKT knives, and you know, some of the Kershaws have some really late lockup naturally, but you could see they took the time to make sure that the geometry behind the liner and the blade tang is just right. So I really like that. You also have a little bit of extra jimping, or I guess some maybe sawtoothing or gear cutting for traction on the liner lock. And I gotta note, the liner lock is fairly thick for a budget knife as well. Like, this is a good stainless steel liner lock. There are some knives where you have just this like flimsy little thing that'll almost cut into your finger because it's so thin. And you can see they polished everything here. There's nothing sharp. Not even this area right here. Everything's been really nicely machined. Another thing to highlight is that the blade logo on QSP is actually etched, and they kind of did a color etch. It's kind of hard to pick up on camera, but it's got almost kind of like a gold tone like their logo does. And then on the other side, you just have the D2 steel nomenclature. Now, moving on to the handle. The handle is kind of like the selling piece for me. I love a good pair of jeans like anybody else.
Looking like you had a 10-year-old pair of pants on. Squat down some more. You can't even do it. That's ridiculous. I know your nuts hurt. Get your behind up there and change them pants. You can't even walk fast.
And of course, I'm a sucker for denim micarta. And when I saw that these came in denim micarta, I pulled the trigger right away, because I love the way this stuff wears, the way it stains, the way like the edges get lighter as they wear over time. Especially from a distance, you can kind of like see how it's starting to, you know, what's the fancy word for dirty? Oh yeah, patina. You know, get my wear to it, and it just kind of reminds you of those nostalgic knives, like the old school slip joints and things like that, those old materials that used to patina really well. And you know, everybody knows you always have your favorite pair of jeans, and no matter how holey or dirty they get, you just keep throwing them in the washer and you just keep wearing them because you love them. And that's what this is going to end up becoming. And I love that about this knife. So very, very cool. Now, you know, denim on its own is a fairly strong material. But when it's resonated, then it's that much stronger, which allowed them to actually really round the edges on this knife. So it's really comfortable. There's no sharp edges, even on the edges of the stainless steel clip here. There's nothing catching, nothing rubbing, nothing at all. Great ergonomics because it's a neutral handle, one of my favorite things. And it allows me to just kind of, you know, manipulate the knife with the size hand that I have, which means that the person with a different size hand will be able to hold it in a manner where it will be comfortable for them. I don't really like dedicated finger grips and large swells that push your hand forward. They look awesome, and they are, you know, to me, a little bit too much on the ergonomic side. A perfect example would be like something like this. Now, this knife is very comfortable. This is an XM18 3-inch, but there is one dedicated grip with this knife. Trying to be versatile, I'm kind of playing with danger right here. Yeah, it's just, you know, I mean, even if maybe perhaps the flipper tap was gone, which I could do and get a flipper delete, I'm not going to do that. I bought this thing as a flipper. It's going to remain that way. But this is a perfect example of a dedicated grip. With a more neutral handle grip, again, I can kind of choke up on it. I can move around. I can do side pinch grips. I just feel more at liberty with the knife. And you can still shape a knife handle to look cool and still leave it relatively neutral for different grips. So it's all in the design. But if you're going to take that step, do it right, like this one, for example. If not, go ahead and play it safe and just do something very neutral that most people can grip onto and be comfortable with. And that's what they did with this one right here. But with this nice, super soft and durable material, they were able to get nice flat screws in there, a little bit of added attention, and then you can see how the clip actually submerses into the scale. So, man, I mean, it's quite cool how they did that. So that's probably one of the reasons too why the screws don't really get hung up, because you got no stainless steel getting in the way. Although you have these screws right here, it's just under micarta, and the clip just slides in right here. I just discovered that right now, guys.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, I don't look at those things, you know. A knife is just take it out, use it, enjoy it, right? But since we're doing a walk around kind of review deal, there you go. The centering's good. Is it dead on? Not really. It favors this side right here, the show side. But I'm sure I could adjust that. Again, I have not taken this thing apart, and I've flinged it around for the last 6 months. And yeah, just a really nice knife. So the QSP Penguin, guys, rates very high on my list. Last little thing to share, you got this lanyard loop right here, and you can choose to put it on one side or the other or both. And I like the fact that they actually just cut the oval in there and didn't mess with the shape of the handle. That's kind of another no-no for me. When they do that, it just, I don't know. I think it's kind of happens for no reason. And I'll show you an example here. This is not really a great example, but you can see, like, if this knife handle was able to be contoured, they had to accommodate by adding a little material for the lanyard loop up at the top corner, right? Now, lanyard loops are cool if you want to add a bead for, you know, jeweling and such. But what they're really supposed to be designed for is if you're holding a knife, you can tie the knife over your wrist so you don't lose it or drop it. It doesn't go flying or dropping on your foot. That's the actual functional use of a lanyard hole, especially in fixed blades. But, you know, over time we've used it for jeweling and things like that, and which is fine. Never been a thing for me, though. There's a few of my knives that have the lanyard beads because they're made by the maker and it's a set and they go together. But that's usually the only reason why you'll see a lanyard on my knife. But I like the way they did it here. It's just all a nice clean knife handle. You can see there's a little bit of cutting out here and chamfering to give you added access to this really nicely finished, high polished lock bar. Overall, guys, I mean, it's a lot for a sub $50 knife. I don't know, what do you guys think? What's cool about that is it just tends to make it a knife that I'm not going to want to sell, regardless of the price, regardless of anything else. Maybe knives like this kind of remind me that price isn't always everything, guys, and you should remember that. Here is the Rat Model 2. I think that is a budget gold icon right there, and very comparable in size. I thought I'd bring out this old school one right here I've had forever. This is an old Damascus Kershaw Skyline. Used to be a very popular model. And I always bring out a little bit of fancy, so let's bring out the JD Van Deventer Pinstripe. This is an absolutely stunning little dress knife to bring out and about. As I brought out earlier, you got the XM18 3-inch, very comparable for size overall. And then I think let's just bring out a bigger knife, something you guys will be more familiar with, a Spyderco Paramilitary 2. And as you can see, this thing is pretty nice in size overall. It's not too small, it's not too large. I want to say it's got some pretty sexy specs overall. Very easy to carry, not very thick in the pocket, carries nice and slim and deep.
That's what she said.
So I hope you guys liked my video on the QSP Penguin. And please make sure you like the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys all on the next one.